Hello everyone, welcome to the Teacher's Time Off with Adora. Hello everyone, welcome to another week on the Teacher's Time Off with Adora. My name is AdoraI Iguma and I am your host. I am super excited to be here. You can tell that I'm overly excited today. Why? Because the semester at school comes to a close this week, and so no school after this week. I'm so excited. You know, I can I can sleep without guilt, and I can work on other things that I've put on hold because of, you know, the end of the semester is always very busy, assignments, final papers to finish and all. So I'm super excited that, you know, school is going to be done this week. So yeah. But how are you doing though? Like, how are you? How has the year been for you? Are you getting ready to retreat? Are you getting ready to evaluate your year? Remember at the beginning of the year, we talked about goal setting and all of those things. So if you set your goals, how do you know you've achieved your goals, right? You need to evaluate the year and know how the year went, okay? So you have to take time out to do that. I'm going to be doing mine this week and I'm so excited. I can't wait. It's a very integral part of my year. Evaluating my year and planning for the new year, it's very, very important so that you don't just go into new year and asking yourself, like, what is happening? Like, how did we get here? What am I doing here? You don't want to be met unprepared. So even though incidents are still going to happen that you didn't plan for, but you also want to be sure that you are, you know, prepared to the best of your ability, you know, yeah. So if you're coming to the Teacher's Time Off with Adora for the first time, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I want to say welcome. Big confettis for you. Welcome new subscribers, welcome first timers. You're special people and I welcome you. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're yet to subscribe, what are you waiting for? Click on the subscribe button right now. And don't forget, don't just click on the subscribe button, ensure that you click on the bell button as well, the one that has all in front of it or the one with the parentheses around it, so that you know when I post a new video or when I go live, you know. So ensure you do that right now. And to my old subscribers, my people, thank you so much for being here. My goal of reaching 200 subscribers is still alive, and I know it can happen. We're on 178 right now, and I'm hoping that at the end of this video we have more. And even, you know, it's possible to have that like this week, 200 people. Just one of you tell somebody else to subscribe, or you take somebody's phone and tell them, you must subscribe to Teacher's Time Off with Adora. You need this YouTube channel. It's very important for you. How can you be an educator and you don't follow, or you don't, even though you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, you know? Don't harass the person. I'm just saying, well, maybe. But I celebrate you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so let's dive in. So for some time, I've been bringing guests on the Teacher's Time Off with Adora, like here and there, you know. You know, just bringing guests, you know, just if I can get them on, I get them, because the lives of teachers and educators are so busy. So today we have a guest and I'm super excited. He has been a facilitator. He's also a member of faculty in the Skill Teacher Academy. So our students love him there already. And he's a great teacher. Like, I've been at his conferences or some of his sessions and they are always very on point and very impactful. There's always something to take away. And he's also my dear friend. I will introduce him when he comes on board, right? So you know the drill. So I'm going to move from this camera to another camera so that both of us can have a conversation, right? Today we're going to be looking at prior knowledge, the power of prior knowledge for your students. The power of prior knowledge for your students. Now, this is a very, very important topic, especially to you as a teacher, educator, and because you have, like, you're the one that creates your lesson plans, you're in charge of your class, you're in charge of the flow of your lessons and all of those things. So it is very important you know about prior knowledge. The power that it has is, you know, you don't know the power that it has, right? And that's why sometimes we just assume that our students don't know, and so we just teach without actually assessing them to know what they actually know and what they don't know. So sometimes we waste our time. That's why we see some children making noise running around. The truth is some of them actually already know what you're talking about. So I'm not going to talk further than that. I'm going to just leave it at that. And when he comes on board, we're going to have the conversation in full. He's going to introduce himself, and then you have the opportunity to ask questions. Just type your questions in the comments, and also on my Instagram page, wherever, send me a DM, and then I'll forward your questions to him, and he's going to answer your questions. He's even going to see your questions and answer them as well. I want you to stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. All right, ensure you watch the video till the end, because the end has something juicy for you. Okay, so stay till the end, and then I will see you later. All right. Hello, everyone. Yes, remember I told you we have a guest today, and I'm live with a guest all the way from Texas, United States of America. Yes, so I have our very own in the Skill Teacher Academy. He is our very own, but here, this is the first time he's coming on here, and hopefully not the last time. Excuse me. And with me, I have our very own Igunma-Ogunyomi.
I'm rolling.
Popularly known as the Uncle Okpe, hashtag the Uncle Okpe effect. Yes. So he's here with us to talk about the power of prior knowledge. And I'm not going to say more than that. I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. So Uncle Okpe, the Uncle Okpe, can we meet you?
All right. Thank you so much, Miss Adora, for this opportunity to be here. I'm glad doing this with you. All right. My name is Igunma-Ogunyomi, like she has rightly introduced, and I'm a graduate student, PhD educational psychology in Texas Tech University, and at the same time, I'm also a teaching assistant, lecturing the undergraduates in chemistry. You may be wondering, educational psychology and chemistry is not for today. So what else do I need to say?
Where can you stop there? He's the author of Dear Teenager. My coffee is around me. Coffee is always here. Yeah. So yeah, you can get it. I know it's going to look like it's upside down, but this is how the book looks like. So you can
It
get
didn't look upside down. It looks good.
It looks good on your end. Okay, on my end it looks like it's flipped. So yeah, he's the author of this book. Dear
And it's on
Teenager.
Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. He's also the host of I almost said Teacher Seven. He's the host of Teens Hangout with Uncle Okpe. Yes, he's the host of that as well. He is a behavioral management expert and he does a lot for teenagers. He also coaches parents as well on how to help their teenagers become better individuals. And so he does a lot of things. So he's a counselor, a professional counselor, certified counselor. Yes. And right now he's in Texas Tech University. Yeah, very soon he will become Dr. Okpeyemi. So
by the grace of God,
add some respect to his name. So let's cherish this moment now that we can get him easily. He's still a graduate student. All right. Thank you so much for coming to join us here on Teachers Time Off with Adora. I'm very excited. This is our second to the last video for the year. So next week we will shoot our last video for the year, and I'm going on my holiday. So I'm very, 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 very excited about that. Yes. All right. So today we are looking at the power of prior knowledge, and I already mentioned that the reason why we're having this conversation, number one, was because both of us had a conversation on it, and I'm like, more teachers need to know about this whole idea of prior knowledge, because it's very easy for teachers to be like, oh, my students don't know, this is what I'm going to teach, this is how I'm going to teach, and that's it. And so it's very important for them to know about this topic. So my first question is, why do you think it's important to have this conversation? I know we have had this conversation, but I want you to tell other teachers why
this video is very important, why they need to know this power of prior knowledge.
Wow, all right. I would like by saying that having worked closely or directly with families for, about a decade now, I've observed that, adults frequently believe that children have no independent thoughts. Adults often confuse the innocence of a child with ignorance. So you hear people, for instance, in Nigeria saying that maybe a child does not have a mind of his own, right? And consequently, this perspective is reflected in the teaching strategies that teachers, especially in what we call pre-K-12 level or the elementary level, for instance, in Nigeria, or even in high school, this perspective is reflected in the teaching strategies. And you see how that teachers see teaching and learning process as a one-way process. And this strategy is firmly ingrained in the behaviorist idea of tabula rasa. Now, tabula rasa is that philosophical concept that originates from Locke's essay concerning human understanding, and it refers to a state in which a child's mind is as formless as a blank slate. So you believe that the child does not know anything. So everything that the child knows is as a result of what you teach the child. All right. And because of the age range of learners at this level, it is easy to underestimate the thinking capacity of children in that level of education. You understand what I'm saying? Now, could this be the reason why children grow up to become adults, finding some concept challenging? You now meet adults that will tell you they have mathematics phobia. You meet adults that tell you that, oh, this part I don't know. Could it be that the reason why they have that challenge is as a result of the fact that when they were in elementary class or in pre-K-12 class or in kindergarten, their instructors or their teachers couldn't build on their existing beliefs or what we call prior knowledge. And prior knowledge is a scientific approach. The first person who came about this was what's his name again? Piaget. And Piaget was employed in the 1920s in Binet Institute, and his job was to actually develop the French versions of questions on English intelligence tests. Now, Piaget became intrigued with the reasons children gave for their wrong answers to simple logical thinking questions. And, he made his findings by asking children some logical questions. Now, one of those interesting questions I'll share with you is what we call the wooden beads versus the brown beads. So he asked the boy, he had 12 beads. He now painted 10 brown and he painted 2 white. Notice the 12 beads are all wooden. So he asked the boy, which is more, the brown beads or the wooden beads? Now, the boy existing belief or prior knowledge is all woods are brown. So the boy said, the brown bead is more than the wooden bead. Do you see that? So it came, one of the assumptions that he had to come up with as at that time is children actually have the ability to construct their own knowledge based on their interaction with the environment. All right. So it's not just what you are teaching as an instructor. It's not just the instruction you are passing to them. They are able to build their knowledge. And that's where the theory of cognitive development, that is where it came out from. All right. It's from Piaget. And that is one of the things that led to it. So could it also be that the reason why we have few professionals teaching children at that level is because they feel it is difficult to teach children? But it's actually easy if you can maximize the power of prior knowledge of existing belief. Because let me quickly say this ahead of your next question, which I know that what I want to say is part of the answers to it, is scientifically this is proven that children's or learners' existing beliefs or prior knowledge can either hinder learning or help learning. A case in point, a child that is used to crawling, he has built a simple knowledge that the world or the earth is flat. How will you teach such child that the world is spherical? That prior knowledge of flat surface would interfere with what you're about to teach him. So if you as an instructor, you don't take cognizance of the role of prior knowledge in learning, you'll just be frustrated. You'll be asking yourself, why is he not getting it? Why is he not getting it? Of which what you need to do is to address the misconception in his existing belief and cancel it out. That yes, your room or your house is flat. But when you take the earth as a whole, the shape is spherical. Do you see why this is important? That this will solve the headaches of a lot of teachers, a lot of instructors. Yeah. Now, before I talk about what research says about it, I don't mind if you want me to talk about it, but it's your platform.
All right. Teachers, go and do your research. That's part of your duties to look at the scientific aspect. And I want to just build on that fact that you said many times teachers run away from teaching elementary because they feel like, oh, it's so hard. And, they have this misconception that these ones don't know anything. Like, what am I going to teach them? Like, how do I break it down to their level? And it's simply, like you said, taken from what they know. And if we're not careful, it can either hinder their learning or actually promote their learning. So I remember just last week when I was having a class with some kids and I was teaching on diversity, or I think, was it inclusion? No, it was inclusion. And so after giving them the definition of inclusion, that inclusion means accepting everyone without anyone being left behind. So I always have this, when I'm with the kids, I use a lot of gestures. When I'm with the older ones, I'm more chilled. So when I say inclusion means accepting everyone without anyone being left behind. So like I do that a lot. And then, but before then I ask, what do you think of inclusion? That's how, for every class that I've had, I always ask, what do you think of diversity? What do you think of inclusion? Even to the little ones in K to 2, that's kindergarten to grade 2. I always ask them, what do you think of diversity? Some of them will say, no, I don't. Some of them will try, and they'll whatever answers they give, I'm like, okay, it's not correct, but I'm going to tell you the correct answer. So imagine someone telling me that diversity means when I go to a shopping mall to buy a dress, for example. Do you understand? A child saying that. And if I did not ask, I won't know that was the child's idea. And trust me, because that has been ingrained, because like he said, there's a scientific part looking at long-term memory and short-term memory. For a child like that means already in their long-term memory. So there's nothing you want to say in 45 minutes that's going to change that ideology. Yeah. Right? And so I do that a lot. And for this particular class, I asked, what is the meaning of inclusion? And this child was correct. She says it's about including everyone and ensuring that everyone comes into, allow people to come into your group to play. Now, imagine my surprise when I told them inclusion means accepting everyone. They repeat it like 3 times because elementary do a lot of repetition. Imagine my surprise when I asked again, what did you learn today? They said inclusion. What is inclusion? Inclusion means including everyone and ensuring that the group that you have, you tell people to come and play with you. Was that the definition I gave in class? No, that was not the definition I gave in class. But is she wrong? No, she's not wrong, right? So I'm like, great, that's amazing. But if a child was wrong, if I didn't ask, like, what do you think? Then a child is going to be, a child that has a wrong ideology will carry that definition for a long time, right? Because they've learned it from somewhere.
Mr. Adora, let me interrupt you. And because I know that this session is for teachers. Do you know, even you as a teacher, let me give you a practical example of how your prior knowledge affects new learning. And I'll use the concept of reinforcement. Do you know that in date, a lot of educators do not know the difference between positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment?
Oh, yeah.
So people think negative reinforcement is punishment. Reinforcement is just what you do to increase a behavior. So positive reinforcement is when you add something to, amplify a behavior. Negative reinforcement is when you withdraw a benefit to amplify a desired behavior. The goal is amplifying the behavior. That's what makes it reinforcement. Punishment is reducing a behavior. All right. When you add is positive punishment. When you remove is negative punishment.
Just to reduce a behavior.
Just to reduce. Do you see the difference between reinforcement? Is you can actually reinforce a negative behavior. That's where I'm going to. So it is not whenever you use reinforcement, it does not mean you are actually is to a positive. There are a lot of times that we actually reinforce negative behavior. Do you get it now? But educators think, oh, reinforcement is what you do to create desired behavior. And I'm like, no. So when you ask them, what is the difference between punishment and negative behavior? They'll be like, they are not similar. Negative reinforcement is when you remove a benefit. A benefit. I want to use a term. So, but thank you for giving me that simpler one. When you remove a benefit because you want to amplify
a behavior.
Desired behavior. Whereas in the case of punishment, your goal is to actually reduce. So punishments can be seen from a positive light that way. All right. So there are some good punishments. But today we are not looking at behaviorism, right? But I just have to say that the reason why that concept is difficult for educators is because of your prior knowledge on what positive and negative is. Anything positive is good, anything negative is bad. So you think negative reinforcement is bad? No. Do you get that just now?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Because do the survey, ask 10 educators what is the difference between reinforcement and
I remember we had a conversation in TST as well. And they're like,
they will miss it.
Oh, yeah. So many times teachers are always like, and the worst part is when children have these conversations and they speak, some teachers are always like, shh, what are you saying? Don't say that. I'm like, no. And I've seen that in almost every school that I went to here, when the child is talking and especially if the child is interfering, they're like, shh. I'm like, just let them speak. Yes, they are disrupting, but don't shush them, because what you do is they won't want to speak anymore, and we need to know what they have on their mind.
You are reinforcing a shyness kind of behavior. You want a withdrawal behavior by
exactly, and some educators don't know that's what they're doing.
So that is a positive reinforcement. I'm deliberately doing that so that any teacher that is watching this will understand deeply the place of existing knowledge, because you will now be confused that why are we shooting a child with positive reinforcement? Yeah, it is because you are positively reinforcing the behavior of withdrawal. So that child will not want to talk again.
Yeah.
So that's it.
All right. Okay. Thank you. See, we went on another conversation, because this conversation positive negative is for another day. So all right. So let's go into the next question, where you talk about the implication of the knowledge of prior knowledge, right? The implication for teachers on the use of prior knowledge, how they can put into practice, how they can begin to apply it.
All right. So before I talk about that, because once you know the why, every other thing becomes simple. That's my own policy. If you look at the way we were born, I won't be happy if I don't say this. If you look at the way we were born, right, you would even see that we were born naked, but we are not born empty. That is to tell you that nobody's a blank slate. Right. So if you are that teacher that you believe in lecture model of teaching, you're just reading from the textbook, or you're just doing all the calculations yourself. You're just talking, because you believe that your children don't know anything. You think what you're introducing to them is a new concept. Then you're wrong, because there's no house without a foundation. Let me suggest to you that learning is the building. Existing belief or prior knowledge is the foundation. And the Bible says that if the foundation is destroyed, what can the righteous do? So if prior knowledge is not put into perspective in teaching learning processes, what do you want the child to learn? So think about that. I would like to say, Selah.
It's a lie.
All right, so and I'll just give you a few other things that prior knowledge of existing belief does to learning. Like we have established, we said it can help or hinder learning. In psychology, we believe that when we are learning a concept, it builds on what we call schema. For instance, if we talk about animals, you have certain experiences that makes you understand the concept of animal. Probably you've seen pets, you've related with pets, you've seen animals in books and all that. So if you already have those pictures, all I need to do is ask you probing questions, all right, to bring out that experience, then explain what I want to teach you in the concept of animal, whatever. Even gravity, by saying how that when you throw an object, when it falls, it never comes up again. A child starts to build basic understanding on gravity. So when, as a geography teacher, you can take it off from that point. So we say that in research, that prior knowledge is a critical factor in forming a new cognitive schema to gain new knowledge. And it also decreases cognitive load. All right. These are technical terms, of course, but I expect that teachers should understand. What did you say?
No, I expect that teachers from here, they go and do their research, but cognitive load, like
Yes.
cognitive
load. See it from that.
Yeah.
All right. So, and because of other questions, let me just round this part with this by saying that the knowledge of prior knowledge, or the knowledge of existing beliefs, when you put it in place, it also it influences students' self-regulation. Now, self-regulation is a concept, and I know that in TSTA and in TFLE that we are going to incorporate this into our curriculum so that teachers can help students regulate themselves. That is the key to having academic achievement, trust me. All right. All these goal-setting skills, they are part of self-regulation skills. And prior knowledge strongly influences that. All right. So the implication, when we begin to, factor the role of prior knowledge of preschoolers, especially into their instructional designs, curriculum, and materials, students at this level begin to learn effectively. Agreed. Number two, I strongly believe that teacher would no longer find it difficult to help a learner understand the concepts better, because you can now track how a student's prior knowledge is interfering with or hindering the new knowledge. Does that make sense? Yeah. The third thing that I strongly believe is teachers will be able to identify and address learners' misconceptions and inconsistent beliefs with well-accepted and well-validated explanations. Just like I've said before, the world is flat versus the world is spherical. Plants eat soil and fertilizer versus photosynthesis. Do you know that all my life, I've always thought that since plants are living things, they eat like I don't let me go into one funny scenario that happened in. We'll talk about this after the session. Characteristics of living things. Don't let me cast myself here. This is the fourth point is teachers will be able to communicate to learners that school topics are to be understood rather than memorized. This will eliminate rote learning. A lot of people just cram, all their way to higher classes. And when they are faced with complex situations, because their learning was not firmly rooted on a good foundation, they find it difficult. Now, teachers will also find it easy to be able to build new knowledge on elements of truth in students' existing beliefs. So, because you're able to track their prior knowledge, you'll be able to cancel out misconception. Then the true ones, you now build what you are expected to teach. You build it on that. It makes the learning firm and solid. Then you'll be able to convince learners that existing beliefs actually need revision. Then you see that learners will be motivated to learn correct explanations. They won't argue with you once they see the need. Once you just see how a misconception is affecting what you have to teach them, like I was deliberately emphasizing on reinforcement and that. So you see that there are a lot of things that you now need to ask yourself, what if what I know is wrong? So you need to now make research. You need to now, that's what prior knowledge does. And lastly, on that, teachers will be able to help learners make connections to context, and this will enable retrieval processes. So you won't even need to stress yourself. Let me give you an example. You want to teach children proportion or even fraction. Every child, especially in Nigeria, I'm not talking about, maybe they may not do this for lucky children, but in the Agege area I grew up from, and adults will come back from, a place and buy orange. And because maybe there are 10 children that have come to me, uncle, welcome, uncle, welcome. What will he do? He cannot kill himself. He takes that single orange, slice it into two, the first half, slice it into another 4 parts. That's fraction. So you use orange to explain it to children. What is this? This is 1 orange. If I use my knife and slice this single orange into 2, this is 1 out of the 2. Then this other part 2 is also 1 out of the 2. This is what we call half. This is another half. You merge it together, you have 1. Half plus half is 1. You have used 1 orange to solve a lot of questions in fraction. What have you done? You have helped your learners make connections to the context. And guess what? Teachers will now begin to preserve learners' self-esteem without ridiculing them for misunderstanding. Because you won't blame them for their misconception. You will only... So when you see teachers shouting and saying, why are you saying nonsense? It's because you yourself, you don't understand the role of prior knowledge. All right. So once you start to key in this aspect into their learning process, you will now correct them well without affecting their self-esteem. How can you do this as a teacher? Now, this is not just, I think all stakeholders are involved, starting from the people in the curriculum, your people, curriculum and instruction.
Yeah.
Because our instructional materials must reflect how what is being taught in the class will be built around learners' prior knowledge. Trust me. So that teachers, and another recommendation is in teachers training institute, like our platform, for instance, we need to also put it as part of our curriculum. All right. It is when you know the need that you now go into the class, just like in your, what do you guys call this thing? Lesson notes, lesson plan. So in your lesson plan, and that's just that's the how I can put it to you now. Just like you write, sorry, it's been a while. We don't use lesson plan yet.
What part of lesson plan? Lesson objectives?
After lesson objective, there's this entry behavior. Good. This prior knowledge is the reason why you have entry behavior in your lesson plan.
Yeah.
That kills it. We actually have it. It's just the implementation that is lacking. So I remember that we actually have entry behavior. You see that entry behavior, the goal of your entry behavior is not that you walk in like Jagaban.
Sorry, we have an international audience, and so I just want to explain that the meaning of Jagaban just means Jaga and then the band, So just kidding. So Jaga, like a big boy, like a cool person, just go in and then you deliver your lesson and then you're out.
And your class is like boom. All right, that's not it. Is that what you're about to teach? You need to probe your students, ask them probing questions to gauge their existing knowledge and belief of the new concept you're about to introduce before you now start teaching. That is the goal of your entry behavior. So as teachers, that your entry behavior will solve 50%, or it will cover 50% of the new concept you're about to teach your students. And I hope that with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you
Not to confuse.
and not to confuse you. Sorry, I just like to have fun when I'm doing this.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I hate. So we also, it's not every time serious, but
It's not every time serious. My
serious. But
sessions. So if all the sessions you guys have been having, you guys have been playing serious. Don't worry, Uncle Papa session is just we will bring it down. And I hope you don't have issues with that.
No, thank you so much. And I just want to really add, because we've talked about assessment here a lot. I talk about assessment a lot, which, and I'll still keep on talking about it as my knowledge increases. But like he said, entry behavior, that's where we now deploy pre-assessment, right? You want to know what your students know. You want to know where the learning gaps are. You want to know their misconceptions. You want to know what they already know. Like I said in the introductory part of this video, that many times we go in teaching what students already know, and that's why we begin to see bad classroom management. You begin to hear noise, and you say, oh, this student is always making noise. Sometimes because they already know what you're teaching and they don't have time. They don't have time to sit down to listen. Again, they're kids. They're like, I know this already. Like, and so, and what I used to do at the time was, if I noticed that a child already knows, so I employ their knowledge on that topic. So I engage them a lot. Like, I keep asking, oh, so what do you think of this? Do you see this as well? Oh, do you know about this? Because I almost spoke in our local parlance, like pidgin, like that I don't know past person I don't already know, because I
We have
senior am. So
we have
that kind of
global
thing.
audience. We have global
Yeah,
audience.
so what I'm saying is that the child cannot know more than I already know, because I've done a lot of research. What many research has this child done that child wants to know? There's at least one thing that child does not know to get the child curious, and it always works. I don't know, it might not work for everybody. I don't know what you
once you do that, you strengthen what the child knows.
exactly. I begin to strengthen what they already know. And sometimes they have misconceptions from what they have learned, because we're in a global world, in a digital age. Students can research, and they have their phones, their gadgets, and they go online and they find a lot of information. So what we do as educators is, okay, so what have you learned? What did you Google? What did you see? Many times I do that before teaching, like, okay, go home, go on Google, just research whatever you see, come tell me. If there are misconceptions, then I correct them, right? So that's the major role of pre-assessment. You want to know these things. And sometimes even students with you feel like a child that has a learning disability does not have anything to say, right? They don't have prior knowledge, because some of them have maybe learning disabilities or special needs. I was in a school as well last week. The students with special needs, those children, there's one, you have to repeat the question twice for him to get it. The first time, he would repeat what he's seen on the screen, but if you ask him the second time, he'll calm down, think about it, and then give you a response that makes sense, right? Another one, he's so cute. Like, he would look at when he would raise up his hand, then look away, like he begins to stare at the wall to get his attention. If you see a child like that, you'll be tempted to say next. But he's trying to get his attention, and then he's going to give a very deep answer. Like, so, like, do not despise the things that children have to say, or just listen to them. Like, yes, it can be a lot, because you as an educator, you can now begin to have cognitive overload. Actually, but you need to know, that's a conversation for another time, when we look at social emotional learning, that like Uncle Papa is talking about, like self-regulation, knowing our triggers, know how to detox our minds and all of those things. We can have those conversations from next year in TST. Well, it's very important that we do that. And another thing he talked about when he mentioned curriculum, yes. So we need to begin to look at culturally relevant curriculum or pedagogy as educators. Like he said, using orange in his context. if you go to some places, there are some children that have never tasted pizza before. I know in my class, when I was in Nigeria, I had a child who said they have never tasted pizza, never tasted shawarma. I don't know how it looks like. I don't know how it tastes. Now, imagine I'm in a class and I'm trying to teach fraction and I'm saying that, oh, pizza, you cut it. But the child is like, I've never seen a box of pizza before. So you need to know, you need to bring lessons that is relevant to their context, and that's what prior knowledge does for you. When you're asking questions like, okay, what do you know, or where do you live, or what have you seen in your area, they're able to tell you, no, because in Nigeria there are some children that they bring them with cars to school, they drive them to school, right? There are some children, they come with public transportation to school. There are some children that have drivers. There are some children that don't. There are some children that have single parents. And then you can't keep saying that, write an essay about how you spent holidays with your parents, which is a conversation I'm going to talk about next week, actually. That when students come back from their holidays, please do not ask them questions like how you spent your holiday. It is not sensitive, honestly, because you really don't want... You want to have trauma-informed lessons, actually. These are topics that we'll talk about later, because children are going through things, right? This prior knowledge, some of them have negative prior knowledge around certain things. And you want to be sensitive enough, and that's why you have to build relationships with your students. A child can be coming from their holidays and maybe their parents are about to get a divorce. What do you do about that? You just trigger the child trauma, right? Ask other questions. Don't be specific and say, write about your holidays. Just tell them, just write. Is it not essay you want to check? You want to check on their narrative essay. Tell them to write. That's where universal design learning comes in, right? You're not being specific. You have to do this. No. Let them do what they want to do. You want to check their narrative essay skills. You want to see how they can write. Then there are other ways to go about it. There are other ways to structure your question. Don't say how you maybe some of them how you spent your Christmas is a great example. How do you know maybe that's not when their parents went bankrupt or they are broke in their family, right? So yeah. So it's it has other implications that we have to put into perspective. It actually makes us more sensitive to the needs of our students when we engage prior knowledge in the classroom. It's not just for learning. It helps us build great relationships with our students, knowing that, oh, how did you get to know about this? How did you know about this? And then you hear some stories from students and you'll be shocked. So, any final words?
No final words. You've said everything.
Conversation for another day. We'll hold our final words conversation, man, because that final words, that's a full conversation again. So nice. It was so nice having you here. It's always a great time having conversations with you.
Always.
This is my only friend that will be, instead of having conversations on how are you doing, how is school, you hear the curriculum, the development, I'm like, wow, having conversations around, education and teaching and all of this, which is great. I mean,
when to grad students are friends.
I'm telling you, when to grad students are having conversations, like it's always like, oh, you like this in school, this is what I think. And yeah. So it was great having you here. Thank you so much for being my last guest for the year.
Oh my God, what a privilege!
I hope to have other teachers here as well. Thank you so much. I'm really appreciative. And bye-bye. It's bye-bye from here. Thank you, everyone.
Wow, how was that? No. How was that session? Wow, thank you so much, Uncle Kwe. Thank you so much for doing this with us here at the Teacher's Time Off with Adora. We are super appreciative. I am super appreciative of you taking your time and dishing out such wisdom to us on this topic. If you want to ask questions, ensure you drop them in the comments. Or if you have something to say, drop them in the comments. I look forward to them. Do not forget to share. It's very, very important. And do not forget to like. And also, the most important, do not forget to subscribe. So subscribe right now. Subscribe. Click on the subscribe button and also the bell button to ensure that you know when I go live or when I post a new video. I will see you next week Tuesday. But after next week Tuesday, I'm going to go on a break because I'm taking my break, my holiday for the first time this year. I'm going to take that very soon, and so next week will be the last time you're going to see me for this year on the Teacher's Time Off with Adora. But you can engage with me on my Instagram page, Facebook, and on LinkedIn if you have any other things that you want us to discuss or you just want to gist with me on teacher stuff. Right, so I will be open over there, but I'm taking a break, so I won't be shooting videos till next year, even though I'm going to be shooting content on my break for a bit, try to edit so that when I come next year, you know, I have some time to post and, you know, just do other things, right? So if you have ideas, if you have things that you would love to see here on the Teacher's Time Off with Adora, you can send me a DM, send me a message up in the comments, whatever. I've seen some people already saying, well, let's talk about this, let's do that. I'm like, okay, fine, okay, cool. So if you have any ideas, please ensure you do that. If you're yet to register for TFLA Summit 2023 coming up January 23rd to January 25th, ensure that you do that right now. The link is always in the description. It's always there, so ensure you click the button and you know it's going to take you to the registration link. Please also share with other teachers, right? And then if there is any other thing that I have to post, any other announcements that I have to make, just know that you're going to get them, you're going to see them, all right? And if you still want to read my ebook, it is still going to be there. I'm also going to be talking about that next week or not because yeah, like I have so many things that I need to say on Teacher's Time Off with Adora, so many things that I have to share with you as educators, and I'm going to do that. Okay, so I will see you next week Tuesday, and after that I will see you in 2023. Stay blessed.